a big focus today, almost 9 months after that horrific December 16 gang rape of that young medical student in Delhi, which brought the public outrage out in the streets of India and even abroad like we've never seen before. Outrage against our continuing silence against violence against women. Today, a Delhi court has finally convicted all 4 of them of rape and murder, bringing one step of closure. But take a look at these figures. In the more than 68,000 rape cases from 2009 to 2011, only 16,000 have been convicted. In fact, Delhi's conviction rate is less than half. But the number of rapes, in fact, have been the highest in Delhi in 2012 in all of the last decade. Then what does it really mean when the judge today praised the Delhi police for a fast and thorough investigation? That's what we discuss on the social network today. Rarest of rare justice. That's a hashtag of Delhi gang rape and the verdict, and you can tweet us live at TSN on NDTV is our Twitter handle. Let's quickly introduce our panelists for the day. We've got with us Suman Nalwa. She's DCP of the Special Unit for Women and Children. We've also got with us Radhika Krishnan. She is a research scholar at the JNU. We've got Karuna Nandi, who's an advocate at the Supreme Court. And joining us from Tokyo, we've got with us Sanjana, who is in fact doing her master's and researching violence against women in urban spaces, and she's looked at Delhi as a special case study. All right, Radhika, if I could just start with you first. You know, I mean, of course, everybody is happy that, you know, finally we've got one step of closure in that, you know, in that Delhi gang rape case, which all of us have talked about ad nauseum. So we're glad that some sort of step of closure has come. But what does that really mean to you?
See, as you've correctly pointed out, it's a welcome verdict. And the Delhi police in this case, I think, did do its investigations fairly well. But the point that we've been trying to make is, why is it that you require thousands and thousands of people to come out on the streets for a good investigation to take place and for some sort of closure to happen? There are thousands of cases that happen every single day across the country, and we rarely see investigation. Forget about investigation, you usually see the opposite. You see the police trying to coerce the victim into withdrawing the case or blaming the victim. Even after the gang rape that happened in Bombay, there was a lot of hue and cry about it. People did speak out against it, but at the same time, the former commissioner of police in Bombay says, you know, 90% of the victims come up with false complaints, so what can we do? The present commissioner of police in Bombay says, oh, women are always seen kissing on the road, so obviously rapes are going to happen.
So there even is now, sort of a patriarchal mindset that certainly needs to be dealt with.
And as long as you have that mindset, a rarest of the rare verdict that comes, the verdict that came today, is not really going to change things. It's a welcome verdict, all right, but we want justice for all the Nirbhayas, not just for one Nirbhaya.
Karuna, your first response.
Why did thousands of people come out on the streets after the 16th of December raid? They came out for the young woman who was brutalized in the way she was, and they came out for themselves. They came out for themselves and their friends and their bosses and their colleagues and also their mothers and their sisters. They came out for their co-citizens, right? And so I think the point is that the legacy of this cannot be that one single conviction. The fact that that conviction has happened and the fact that you know, the Delhi government has shown us that they can mobilize the police to gather adequate forensic evidence. The fact that you can appoint a special public prosecutor. Let's not forget that he was not from the regular prosecution cadres. This sort of public prosecutor is not usually available. And that one conviction can happen in such a public, but this is the top of the creamy layer in terms of cases, right? The legacy of these protests, this event, the fact of this young woman losing her life needs to be twofold. One is that there have to be systemic changes across the board, not just better prosecution, better forensic evidence, witness protection programs, more judges, more courts. We have some of the lowest, we have among the lowest proportions in the world, much lower than most developing countries. But also we have to have the government lead on behavior change. And that's curricula in school, there was a lot of discussion on that, you know, Kashish, after December. Curricula in schools, communications campaigns, like for example, with tobacco, with the reduction in tobacco. There have been some major successes actually. And Shri Milind Deora, the Deputy Minister of Communications, committed to me publicly actually that he would run such a campaign. It was very recent. And I really hope that those commitments, this and many other commitments that have been made by government are fulfilled.
So I just want to ask you this first. You know, every single girl in Delhi, every single woman in Delhi wants to know, I think perhaps today, and there's a lot of talk about that online as well, that clearly the Delhi police can do it. But why are they only able to prove their mettle in a high-profile case? Why not the cases of people who are perhaps underprivileged? Many of those cases don't even get reported. Many of those cases are still struggling to get their FIRs lodged.
Kashish, I would not agree with it right now, because I mean this is not the first rape case in which we have got conviction. We have 50%, almost 49.5% of cases which end up in conviction as against the all India figure of 24%. That doesn't mean that 50% of the cases which were not convicted were not properly investigated. Any acquittal report that we receive, it is thoroughly studied, and why it did not result in conviction, that is also kind of found from the acquittal report. And if the investigating officer is responsible, strictest of strict action is taken against him for tardy investigation if it is pointed out. Now it is a judgment, it is an independent judge which is telling us on why this case has not resulted in conviction. So there are checks and balances there also. And again, when we talk about sexual assault, there are special report cases which are supervised by a gazetted officer, and ACP is a supervisory officer. So every he's a guiding force behind the investigation. So who's constantly guiding the investigating officer with a view that everything possible is done to collect the evidence. However, when the conviction does not take place, there are other factors also
that come into play. Okay, but